we speak about magnitude that Ceuta have never seen. This region, the enclave of Spain in the northern Africa. But the problem is that it happened quickly and the number was very high. So at some point, the number of people that arrived, either by jumping over the fences or by swimming into the shores of Ceuta, was about 70% of the population, of the permanent population of Ceuta. So it was literally an invasion of Moroccan citizens, mainly young people.
But why now? Why did it happen now?
Yeah, that's the key question. And I think that there are different ways to answer to it. On the one hand, there was a very effective manipulation that had been taking place through social media in Morocco, convincing, persuading, basically manipulating young people to travel to Spain because they will be able to then reach the Spanish mainland. But this was obviously a sort of propaganda and disinformation campaign because the main argument was that the Spanish court adopted a new legislation or adopted changes into the legislation which would basically allow or favor those who enter Ceuta by swimming. So this message that there has been created a loophole in the Spanish legislation created this or inspired many young people in Morocco to try their chance.
Tell us what Ceuta's legal status actually is.
Yes, Ceuta is part of Spain, but it's part of Spain, meaning also the EU, but it is regulated by different rules than the rest of Schengen zone, to which Spain belongs. So there is much more control, and it's not that easy to reach the mainland unless you comply with all the legal rules that are strictly implemented by the Spanish side.
But you mentioned the numbers involved here. Essentially, the arrivals amounted to 70% of Ceuta's population. Give me a sense of how it can cope with those numbers, what it must have looked like on the ground.
From what I recall, the pictures, the videos that I have seen, uh, the local authorities were overwhelmed. Such number of people have never been seen because usually the illegal migration that has been always the case for this region of Spain has been always under a certain control. There has been always a big problem with people that are trying to reach Europe through Morocco and using Ceuta as a gateway, but it has never been so quickly and in such numbers. And I think that this was the biggest difference from everything else they have seen so far, because last year in the aftermath of the protest that young people in Morocco organized against the government for poor living conditions and no economic opportunities and so on and so forth, there was already an increasing number of Moroccan that have been trying to enter Ceuta through illegal crossings. So this was already the case, but it was never at the extent that we are seeing now or have seen like the couple of days, hours ago, because now the situation has been put under control, so people have been leaving Ceuta.
We know, Dennis, that Italy has responded by suspending the EU's border free Schengen arrangements with Spain. Are they allowed to do that? Can they do it?
Well, in certain circumstances, when it's about the security of the borders, of the common borders, the member states can reintroduce control over the borders. But the idea is that Italy doesn't have like a common border with Spain, meaning that most likely they can only apply this more rigorous control for the incoming flights. So this is a very, I would say it's a more political statement than actually a practical measure that would somehow help Italy to avoid people from Ceuta to come to Italy, which is not possible in the first place because the Spaniards are keeping the flow of people from Ceuta to Spain and the rest of Europe in under strict control.
You look at the European response as a whole to this crisis. How do you feel about that?
I think that it was a little bit of confusion at the very beginning, but then Antonio Costa, the president of the European Council, has had a very good message of support of Spain and speaking about solidarity, which is important for Spain that has been facing recently already a crisis related to the mass wildfire. So we speak about a country that has been facing a lot of pressure. The resources that the country had were in a way overstretched, and I think that what happened in Ceuta is in a way an attempt to test how Spain can react to such type of crises. But the EU has been not speaking with one voice because what Antonio Costa said was not really the first message that the president of the European Commission, von der Leyen, has expressed. So I think that what is important to see is whether the EU can really help Spain and learn important lessons from this crisis because it has been happening something similar in the eastern flank of the EU, where since 2021, Belarus is using a very similar hybrid warfare strategy against Poland and the Baltic countries. So we have to understand that this is something that can be used in the future in order to undermine the borders, first of all, but also the credibility of the EU when it comes to support its member states.
It's the consequences now for Spain, isn't it? And indeed the European Union. What does this as a whole mean?
Well, given the fact that the crisis was managed quickly, I think that there is a sense of relief in Brussels and in other member states that have been very quick in adopting this restrictive measures at borders with Spain. France was another country that have been introducing like a more closer verification at the border. But again, we have to understand that Ceuta is a very specific case. It is a region in the north of Africa. So it's very hard to reach from that region to the Spanish mainland. So what is more important to see is whether Ceuta can be used as a trigger for other geopolitical tensions that can take place between Spain and Morocco, which obviously can affect the EU's interest in the south, in its southern neighborhood.
And the 60,000 migrants who have reached Ceuta, what happens to them now? And can they reach mainland Europe?
Most of them have returned to Morocco, and that
Why?
was
Why?
uh, because they didn't receive what they expected. As I mentioned before, they were literally manipulated that they will get free tickets to go to Spain, which is in a way their economic interests. Because as I explained earlier, they are facing economic troubles at home. So many of them return because they literally faced the reality which was harsher than they imagined because they didn't go through the procedures that would allow them to then request for legal status in Spain as a result of that having the possibility to then integrate into the labor market of Spain.
And so the majority of them have gone back. So the situation for the
Exactly.
moment, the
Exactly.
situation for the
So
moment is
while
settled,
they
is it?
created, while they created a lot of, it was a very impressive number of people. It was also clear that that was orchestrated because they then went back home, usually without any kind of altercation or problems that they would have created in meeting, the Spanish military or Spanish authorities that are based in Ceuta. So it was a peaceful retreat back home.
Really helpful analysis from you tonight, Dennis. Thank you very much indeed, sir.
Thank you so much, and let's stay in touch.